Hello, all. Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, based on wherever you are. So, we have been doing job queue for a while, and I actually got an interesting question, which is kind of the source of this video. Somebody watched the first two videos into the series and said, "Yeah, the content was great, but I have this issue." And I said, "Okay, let's talk about it." So the request was that I'm unable to run a report, I guess 699, which is calculate plan from job queue, and we'll see how that works and why there was an issue. But before we get into it, I just wanted to give an update from our last video that I did fix up that code, which was my mistake. And now if you go back to the same source code, you will see that the balances are updated here. So whenever this batch is running now, this will update the balances for customers and vendor as they are changing, as discussed into the previous video. So if you haven't watched it, go back and watch that video. But coming back to today's problem. So the question was that based on this recordings that we have done in the past for the first two videos, someone was trying to set up a new job queue, and let's do this together, and would like to run report 699, which is calculate plan requisition worksheet, and there was no parameter specified as far as I know, and there was nothing done on the request page, hopefully, and the person was trying to run this. So when he or she is trying to run this, and I'm just trying to run it in once and foreground to show you what the error is, they say yes, the first error message that says enter and starting date. So there is some need of a starting date somehow. Okay, so we did talk about it in the first video. Let's click on this and let's define the start date. So let's say I'll set it to 1/1/20. Okay, let's save that. Let's run it and again in the foreground. It says enter ending date. I should have done that. Okay, so let me set both of them. My start date is 1/1/20, and here it is 1/1/24. Let's say, hopefully that's all I need here. Let's click OK, and now it says run on foreground, and it seems to be running right now. Okay, let's see. And there's an error. It says requisition worksheet template does not exist. Identification names and value name is equal to blank. So there should be a filter for requisition worksheet template, right? So let's see it. And when I pop it up, there is no way that I can define the requisition worksheet template. There's no such field here. So there is something that kind of fails what we are trying to explain in the previous video. So now let's go ahead and understand this report before you start setting it up onto the job queue. So I'll go back into my VS Code. Let's go to our symbols and let's search for that report. So when I look at that report, what I see is it's running on the data item, and that's it. And here are the options for a starting date, which we did set on the request page, ending date. Okay, and other options. So let's collapse this. Let's see what happens when the report opens up. It says initialize from the setup. Everything looks good, so nothing here that will stop me. And then here is where I was getting error for the from date and to date. So everything good here. And then let's come down. Here it is setting up the requisition line dot set range of a template name and a batch name. So somehow this report is being called from page where the requisition template and batch seems to be set from that page, it seems. So let's search for this current template name. When I come down here, I see that there are two variables defined here called current template name and current worksheet name. Okay. Then I also see that there's a method which is public, which says set template and worksheet name. So I can actually set these properties before running this report. And also, if you look at it here, I also have a global procedure to set the start date and end date dynamically. So before running this report, I can actually call these methods and set them up. Hopefully that makes sense what I'm saying. So what we are going to do today is we are going to try to set these. So it is setting up requisition template. So let's go into the system and like for requisition worksheet template. So there is a template planning. So let me copy this and put it into a notepad. So okay, let's keep it here. This is my template name, and then look at the worksheet name. So there's a worksheet called default. So let me put that as default here, and then I can see what's in there. So there's nothing on this. Okay, not a problem. So I should be somehow able to define these as parameters. Now this time we are talking about two parameters. And why two? Let's make it four. Let's say uh, the start date and the end date also as parameter. So now I'm saying that I have four parameters, and I'll utilize those four parameters to set this report up before I start actually running it. And the idea of this report is to populate the requisition worksheet lines based on these parameters. So let's delete this and let's write some code. Okay, heading back to my BS code, and let's go back to our job queue folder, and let's create a new file or code unit, and I'll call it as sdh report or schedule reports if you have to, and you can then kind of make it generic. So let's finish this builds up, we know the drill. So as discussed in the previous video, so let's do the table number as job queue entry. Okay, job queue entry. Okay, as we know, let's define the first trigger, which is important, which is on run. And with this, I'm now, this code unit is kind of linked to my job queue entry variable or the record. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and start, because I'll be getting four parameters, these four. So let me copy this in so I don't have to come here every time. So I'm going to somehow define how I want it, how I'll send it from job queue, and then kind of decrypt that into different parameters. Okay, so let's say these values are coming as comma separated, okay, from job queue, and you can choose anything. Okay, comma separated is just very common one, so maybe let's separate them with a plus sign. So I'm saying that the values separator would be a plus sign, and anytime you see a plus sign, you kind of take the first part of it and make it as a first variable. So let's create a procedure here and call it as decrypt report parameters. Okay, or not report but job queue parameter. Okay, and I'll pass the record dot parameter string. With this, I'll be able to call this method or define this method. Here it is, and this will set some global variables. As simple as that, right? What will be those global variables? Let's have a look into our screen. Requisition worksheet. Okay, that is default. Let's zoom this just to see that I'm using the right length for the variables. When I zoom this, I see the worksheet template name as 10, and batch name is also 10. So let's go here and define two global variable. These are template name and batch name. of type code 10. Okay, and then I need the start date and end date because I don't want to do it from there. So start date, end date as date. So now I have the four variables. Now let's use the simple maths and start analyzing these in this method. So the first thing is I need to find the position of this plus. For that, let's define a variable called pos of type integer. And then as we all know, I can do a pos, which is the position of my plus. So this will tell me at this point that I'm here, that this will be counting from here till here. So what I can understand that my template name will be anything before the first plus sign. So what I can do is I can just assign this of copying a string from 1 till position -1. What will happen with this? Anything that is from here till this position -1, which means all this, will get copied into template name. Okay, and then I'll reduce the parameter string. Just kind of remove that part, right? So what I'll do is I'll just do the copy string of my parameter string, which is now the whole string, from uh, from the position +1, which is from where the thing has ended. So what I'm saying it, first identify the position of first plus, which is this, and I'm saying anything between the counter 1 till position -1, which means all this gets copied into this. And then I'm saying the parameter string should be exist only anything that starts from position, which is this, +1. So now I have this much left, and I'll keep doing this, right? So then what I'll do is I'll just copy this as it is, and then this time it'll be batch name, which will again becomes the same formula. And then again my parameter string kind of reduces back to the 3 characters. So now I have the start date. Now because it's a date, I can't just assign it, I'll have to evaluate it. So I'll say my start date is anything that is coming from here, like this. The same thing gets copied here. So anything that is the third parameter will get evaluated into this, and I forgot to assign this in the middle, which I should have, to finding out the position. Okay, now okay, let's copy all this as it is, and that becomes my fourth parameter, which is my end date. Okay, but now I'll at the end I'll not find the position of this because there is not ending with this, so I'll have to append this, let's say, just to be sure that I'm exactly doing what I need. So I'm also appending this at the end. So I'll find the position of this, and then anything position -1 will get copied, and I'll have all my 4 parameters set. So this method is setting up template name, batch name, start date, and end date. Now that's done, so I can go back and start setting up whatever I need. So let's create a variable for that report, which is my report, which is calculate plan of report calculate plan. Okay, there are 2 of those. I'm getting a little bit confused which one is that. So let's quickly analyze which one is this. This one is 669. No, this is something else, and I wanted to run the 699. So let me just quickly check the name. 699, and that's the report called calculate plan requisition worksheet. Okay, so let's copy this and let's copy this. Okay, So now once I have all these parameters available, I can just call my methods, which is initialize request, and the initialize request needs the start date, which becomes my start date, and my end date. So I've set this as start date and end date. And then on the calculate plan, I can then call my set template and worksheet. And this time I'm setting up the template name and the batch name. Once that is set, I can just do a calculate plan dot run or run model, whatever, run, obviously. So just with this code, now if I set up the code unit 50012 uh, into my job queue, I'll be able to run the same report and hopefully it'll generate the data, right? So let's go back in here. Let's try to publish this. So with this kind of change, you can actually run those reports which have different kind of requirement. Now, I'm not saying that this is the solution for every report, because in some report, which I hope are rare, where you cannot set those parameters, because normally when Microsoft will define a report which will need some parameters from output from an external entity, it'll surely make those methods available so that you can set them up. So it's a little bit of workaround, but you need to keep in mind that how you kind of set these job queues and how you utilize the power of parameter string. So let's see, let's create a new one. Let's set up the code unit this time, define the code unit, and in the parameter string, whatever the string that we have built here, let's copy that and place it in here. So now this goes as parameter string, and then my first method in my code unit kind of decrypts it, which is this one, and sets all these parameters which then used to run this report. So now let's run this and see what happens. Okay, because I'm running it on the foreground, you can see that it did set up all the settings, but I'll cancel it right now because that's not the plan. What I'll do is I can just, for the demo, I'll just set it to run every day, which you should not be, but okay. And I'll say it should run every 2 minutes, and I'll set it to ready. So at any moment now it should be running, and we should have a job queue log entry being created about this. So let's see, log entries. This was created at 10:12. Hopefully that has been succeeded, and hopefully we see some data into it. Okay, so let's go into requisition worksheet. Oh, but I don't see any data, and that's maybe because I don't have data into this area. But let's figure out a similar kind of report, and that will become, let's say, journal should have a report like this. So let's go to journal so that we can actually see this seems to be working. There should be a report to populate the journal. Let's have a look. And these reports are kind of hidden sometime, but okay. Opening balances, prepare journal, and let's do customer opening balances. Oh yeah, so it does create some opening balances for that customer. Okay, so let's delete these line and let's see what report is that. Opening balances and create opening balance, and it doesn't, oh, it doesn't tell me what report it is, so let me delete that. Okay, and we'll just quickly check and add that into the same logic. So when I go into journal page, and look at the report to create opening, or I guess opening balance. Yeah, so opening balance for GL account, one action is this customer opening balance. Okay, so what it is doing here, it is trying to run a report called create customer journal line. Okay, let's go in there. Let's see what happens there. Okay. So let's, for the time being, let's just copy this for a while because we will need it in our report here. And let's comment this section for a while. And I'll paste it here. Now my create this is becoming this report. So if I come back here, search for this report. Okay, so it runs on a data item. Again, there is a request page where you can need to define the document types, document number, posting dates, document dates, and general template name again, which is the similar thing as we had, and the batch name and the template code and everything, right? But additionally, this report will also have some methods which are public to initialize and to set up these different parameters. So I can set up the document type from here, posting date from here, and document date from here if needed. And then I can also set up the template name, batch name, and template code. So I can actually set up everything that I need. And I already had the code where it is being called. So now let's rewrite this code in a way that I can utilize it from the job queue. But let's remember something. I'm not going to remove all this. That's the beauty of it. I'm not going to say that, oh, this code unit will only work for calculate plan and not for anything else. Let's be a little bit creative here. We are trying to run a customer journal lines, and there are other parameters that are available in my job queue entry. If you notice that there is also a parameter which is my job queue category code. So in my job queue category code, if I would like, I can actually utilize that field, which I'm not using right now, this field, to define which report will run based on the category. So what we'll do now is we'll utilize that category and then set this up. So let's do that. Okay, let's keep it simple. So the first thing that we want to make sure that there is a parameter. So I'll set that parameter string if it is equal to blank, then send an error back, which you should not, but just for the demo, that please select the parameter string or define the parameter string, because this code unit is specifically to run these reports, which is kind of a little bit tricky, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize that property with a case statement for reg dot job queue category code of. So I'll define different categories, and those categories then will be used to run the different reports. So the first category that I'm defining is run, let's say 699, which is already defined here. So I'll name it here that it is for calculate plan. If this is the category defined on a job queue with the right parameters for sure, then this code will be called. Okay. Now what I'm doing is I'm saying to define another category, run 8611, which is that report number, to create customer journal lines. And you can kind of do it as you want. It's up to you how you want it. We still have to do the same thing. We'll have to decrypt those parameters and then utilize them, right? More or less, I'll be writing some code like this. So let's copy this as it is. Okay, and paste it here. I'll need a reference to the customer because it is seems to be only running for customer where they are not blocked. So I'll just define that here in this right order. Record customer. Now it says that this is a report. So let's set that up, and I can just copy it from here if needed. Okay. So let me define this report also. Okay, done. Now it says get posting date. For the demo, I'll just set it to work date, and you can define whatever you want. based on your need. But to keep it simple, I'm just doing it as work date. So both the parameters for posting date are set to work date. You can change them. Now for the document type, it's just an option. So I'll just copy this and paste it here. Okay. Now it comes to the point where it needs a template name, a batch name, and a document number. I need 3 fields in this case. Okay. So let's utilize them, or let's build on them. So I'll change this to journal template name, and I'll change this to journal batch name, and we will again decrypt those parameters as needed. Okay, so as we created here, let's create one more method, decrypt job queue parameters, and for let's say it's 611, and I'll just make it unique for this particular report. So the parameter, the function is created. Let's do the same maths. I'll just copy this, paste it here. Now do remember that parameter string cannot go beyond 250 because that's the max length on the table field, so you can't change that. The template name is supposed to be 10 and the batch name is also supposed to be 10. So let me just define that. Journal template name and the journal batch name. Okay. And then anything else here? Okay. Document number will also be 10, I guess, if I'm not wrong. Oh, it's document number on the journal line, so that becomes code 20. So let's define that as code 20. Okay, that all sounds good. Now we are at a stage where we need to decrypt those parameters to identify the 3 parameters that we need in this case. Okay, so let's use the same logic as we have used here. To define the boss, to identify the plus, let's assume we are still keeping it as plus. That gives me template name. This one will give me the batch name, and this one will give me the document number. So I'll just copy paste it here, and I'll just change the variable references. The first one becomes the template name, the second one becomes the batch name, and the third one obviously becomes my document number. Okay, I should not be evaluating it, so I'll just change it here like this. Okay, so once these 3 are kind of decrypted, I'll be able to utilize them, and if needed, and it's the best practice, I guess, that I should clear it out if it kind of runs multiple times. It should not be saving anything on that nature, which does not work this way, but because my AI copilot was suggesting me that, so I just utilize that time. Okay, so we are more or less good here, and they should set all these 3 parameters, which then can go to this area. The report kind of runs and the entry should get created, and that's it. Now think about it, how many reports you can set by just creating this combination. So any other report that you have to schedule, you can just use one single code unit, define different job queue category code, and then utilize them to run different reports based on 2 different things. One is defining a unique job queue category code per report, and also defining a different set of parameters which are applicable to that particular report. Hopefully that makes sense, but let's give it a try. We should not be leaving anything without giving it a try, right? So let's pick the same report, 50,012, and we'll go back to job queue entries. Okay, and I think I already have this 50,012 set up. Okay, Now, before we move further, we did not find out what should be our parameters for this. So we need to define what is my template name, what is my batch number and doc number. Okay. So let's go to journal. Okay, here. Okay, let's do Control Alt F1. And let me define a fake line so that I can see these parameters set here. Okay. So my template name is journal, which is nice. I can just put it here. My batch name, which is a little bit late in the field list, is daily. Okay. So let's define daily. Did I went a little bit far into it? Oh, sorry. I did something wrong for sure. Okay. I don't know what I did, but it's journal plus daily. Okay. Somehow it's going to work right. And then the last thing is what my document number is. So that'll be, let's say, JQ001 and plus. Okay, so this batch is empty, as you can see. I'll just delete this line which was created right now, and let's come back here. Now in this report, this is running for the same logic, which will not run right now because I don't have the data. So I'll set it on hold, come back here and define my new parameter string, which is this, and do a plus. Now this will not run at this moment because there is no job queue category. And if you remember, all my code is running based on the case run on this job queue category. So I'll have to define the 8611. So now let's do this and define a new and do a run 8611. Now pay attention to this, why this got in the uppercase, because this is a code field, and that's the reason you need to specify this in uppercase, because the system will look for this job queue category code, not the small one. So keep that in mind while utilizing the job queue category for doing this. To run report 8611. Okay, let's do this. So I've set up the 3 parameters that I need for 8611, and I have set up that it should run in every 2 minutes. Sounds good. And then I'm going to set it to ready. As I set it to ready, it should run any moment now. So now if I go back here, see the log entries, did it ever ran? It might show me the past one, hopefully. Only, oh, it did seems to be running. And this time, if you look at it, the parameter string was different, journal daily JQ001. And hopefully, if everything went well, I should have lines in my journal for this particular batch. And here they are. So if you pay attention to it, the document number is what I have sent from there, and it automatically created it. So now if I have to run the same job queue for the other report, which I have set here, I only have to create this job queue category code in my data, in my business central, and I need to make sure that I'm sending up the right set of parameters, which is 4 in this particular case. In case of 699, there are 4 parameters. So I just need to send these 4 parameters based on whatever my separator is. So if my separator is semicolon, I'll just have to replace these with semicolon. Okay. If my separator is an exclamation mark, which, or at the rate sign, I just need to make sure that I replace these with that sign. So whatever you want to be your separator, utilize that into this formula, and then get all your parameter decrypted or broken up into the logical into these variables, and then you can run any such report by just using one single code unit. So if you have 50 reports like this, you don't have to set up 50 different code units into it. you can just do it with the knowledge of the parameter string and how you can decrypt it. And to make it more generic, you can also use a job category code field and do a case statement based on it so that you'll be able to run it. So hopefully the person who asked a question got his answer. And if it was not your question, hopefully you learned something new today. If you did, hit that like button. If you think this is useful for other members in the community, hit the share button and share it on your social media. And if you don't want to miss all the fun that we have in this channel, then do hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you sooner than later with the new video into a completely different series. Or if there are questions on any of these three videos, I'll make sure to add new videos into this particular series. Let me know your views into the comments to this video and see you soon.